Hi there. In this video, we'll be covering how much does it cost to self-publish a book. Before you spend a dime with a book company or a book professional, you'll definitely want to watch this video. By the end of this video, you will learn the typical cost to bring a book forward, why spending more money could pay off in the end, and the necessary steps that you don't want to skip. And stay tuned until the end of the video for an opportunity I really think you're going to enjoy. Let's dive in. It's easy to go on Google and find all these different companies and organizations that want to help you publish your book. And they all have different names and they all have different logos and they seem like they're perfect. Some are okay and some are kind of a ripoff. It really depends. And it's important to keep that in mind. You know, you could work with a company that operates month to month and they could just string you along and stretch you along month after month. And you're spending money and thinking, what am I getting out of this? The other thing to keep in mind with companies is that they often work with freelancers, and they usually don't tell you who those freelancers are, right? So you could work with an editor, you don't know what their background is. The company's basically vouching for them and saying, oh, this editor is really good. But are they really? Do you really trust that? You know, why should you trust that? You know, where's your money actually going? A lot of times companies will take money up front from you. They will give the editor or designer or somebody else some of the money and then pocket the rest of it. You know, so it really is just kind of open to interpretation of where your money is being spent. So before you start going on Google, you know, and just finding any old company to work with, I really think it's important to understand the actual cost of what goes into producing and publishing a self-published book. And it's important to keep in mind too that a lot of these companies, they'll say, you know, we do everything for you. This is a done-for-you service. You know, they fill in the gaps. There's a knowledge gap that comes with publishing a book. You don't know what it takes. And these companies will fill that need for you and say, we'll do everything for you. That's great, right? It's easy. But easy means you're probably leaving money on the table. So when I think about book publishing and bringing a draft forward, we're not talking about the writing process. We're talking about everything after that. We're not talking about writing, we're talking about everything after the draft is completed, which means editing, layout and design, and promotion and publication. Editing is the first step in this process, and it can be expensive, you know, but it's important to be able to pay for high quality work. There's usually 3 rounds of editing. The first is developmental or content editing. That's the 30,000 foot view, the story level. Does the story flow? You know, does everything make sense? The next step is copy editing, which is more of a paragraph level and stylistic and all those sorts of things. And the next step is proofreading. So there's 3 steps in editing. You know, the content developmental editing and the copy editing are so crucial. Proofreading is that safety net to make sure that you're not missing something, you know, errant punctuation marks, all those sorts of things. It's good to get as many sets of eyes on it as you can, but you really want to make sure to work with high quality professionals because otherwise they can just pass along your book. Oh, it's great, looks great. You know, offer some little minor corrections and feedback and then that's it. And you miss an opportunity to punch up the book. You miss an opportunity to make the book better. And that opportunity could really hold you back. You know, if you have a bad edit and your story doesn't flow, or if there's overlapping stories and redundancies, and the reader reads these things and says, this is redundant. I read this already. You know, this is repeated. Or misspellings all over the place. Say, this isn't very high quality. You know, this is a bad reflection of the author. You know, this is ultimately about getting the story right and making sure that it's as strong as possible. So you don't want to rush the process on editing. You want to make sure to take those steps, take the time, and work with editors that are high quality. After the story has been refined and ironed out, and your draft is in clean shape, now it's a time for layout and design. And cover design goes into that too. We'll just group design all together. The layout is the inside pages, and you want that to be as visually appealing as possible. And then there's the cover design as well. And the cover design is maybe the most important thing in the book because if people don't like the cover, they don't like the title, they don't like the picture. If the cover doesn't work, they're not going to open the book. And then if they open the book, and they're not wowed by what's inside, they're not going to keep reading. So all these things fit together to create a great reader experience. And the more that you can do in working with high quality professionals, the more likely it is that somebody keeps reading. It's not to say that, especially if you're interested in cutting costs, that you can't make a cover in Canva and just use that. It's not to say that you can't do that. But if you want the biggest results, if you want the most visibility on your book, you're going to want to work with people who have experience working with books, who have experience working on successful books, that they know what it takes to make a successful book. You want to, keep pushing forward with high quality professionals in all these places, because all of these things have a factor. All of these things have an impact on the book itself. The next step is promotion and publication. Once you have that draft that's refined, that's in clean shape, once you have your layout and cover, the next step is to get it ready for publication and promote it. Get it in the right sales channels and figure out how you want to sell it, how you want to promote it. A lot of people just think, okay, we're going to publish it and that's it. You can build such a long runway to publication, especially on platforms like Amazon. You can post your book months in advance, have pre-sales, and when your book is officially published, all those pre-sales count as sales. So you could have thousands or hundreds of sales right off the bat. It's a great way to just build momentum ahead of the book's release and carry it forward from there. But this really is about getting a long runway. This is about setting a course, sticking with it, and having a long runway for opportunities when your book is released. All these steps take time and money. And when I think about the path to publication, and I think about all the steps that you need, it typically will cost you somewhere around $3,000 to $5,000 to be able to publish your book in a high quality manner. Again, you can go cheaper, you can cut corners, you can do your own Canva cover design. I don't want to tell you how low you can go. I want to tell you what is reasonable. I think if you're looking at $3,000 to $5,000, specifically $4,000 to $5,000, somewhere in that range for all these steps, depending on the scope of the book, depending on the size of the book, this would be for a shorter kind of book, maybe 40,000 words. If you're going longer, a lot of these editors will work on word count, and the longer you go, the more it's going to cost, which makes sense. But it's important to keep in mind that price point, because a lot of times when you work with companies, they might charge you that for 1 month of service. What are you getting out of that? Instead of working with the company that's going to, set a monthly cost for you and just, keep the meter running month to month, I would recommend working with a site like readsy.com that deals with a lot of high quality professionals. Readsy only takes the top 3% of applicants. I happen to be somebody who was accepted as a ghostwriter on Readsy. I appear there, you can check me out. But they have other professionals in other capacities. If you need a designer, they have awesome designers. If you need a writing coach, they have awesome writing coaches. If you need somebody to promote your book, they can do all these things. You can go from one person to the next and work with the best of the best for a reasonable price. You get to reach out to them, see if they're interested, figure out rates between you, have something that's fair, and then continue forward with clarity. And it's great to have that backing of a company, that there's this in between. It's not just you finding somebody online. These are vetted people. When you find these companies that tell you that they're going to help you publish your book, who are the people that you're working with? Who are your collaborators? Have they been vetted by anybody? I have no idea. You don't either. That's why you really want to think about transparency, and you want to think about taking the time to get it right, choosing the right editors for your book. If you have a book that's in a specific field like business, you want to work with editors who have experience in that field. You don't want to just find somebody who can randomly do books. You want to find somebody with specific subject matter expertise, because they can help make your book better in that space. It's not just about writing a great book. It's about writing the right book, finishing the right book, and publishing the right book. And they can help you do that. If you want to learn more about how much does it cost to self-publish a book, definitely want to check out another video that I recorded. I'll link to it on the screen. It's called, Is Writing a Book Worth It? I happen to think it is, but I want you to know for yourself. Watching that video can help you explore all of the doors that can open from writing and publishing a book. Remember, a good book can change your life. I'm Dan Good. Thanks for watching.